All right, greetings, welcome. My name is Jackson Hardin. Welcome to this video. Today we are talking about drugs and sex and rock and roll. We're going to talk a little bit about what my relationship with them has been like over the years and how it's changed and transformed, and how at a certain point in life, taking a break from the party was definitely necessary, and then how I've brought party back into my world, why I've done it, and the benefits of it. Um, and this conversation, this video itself is going to be a little bit more of a riff than maybe some of my last few. Reason being, I don't really know where I want to go with this topic, but it's been a topic I've wanted to talk about for a while. So, for those of you that don't know, my name is Jackson Hardin. I'm a coach. I mentor people. On this channel, I share skills, practices, information, and insights to help people, particularly teachers and coaches and practitioners and business owners, find a little more clarity and direction in their lives and impact their communities and the people they're working with in bigger ways. So today I want to talk about this. Like I said, it's going to be a little bit of a riff. I'm not sure exactly where I want to go with it. I started writing notes about it, and it just became clear to me that I wasn't going to get very clear writing. But I do want to talk about it. Smoking, drinking, and acting fucking cool. That's the name of this video. And I've got to say, I am a little nervous. I don't know where I'm going to go with this conversation, and hopefully it's useful. And then also, hopefully, it doesn't have a negative impact. So I guess I'll start by saying it's been something I've been reflecting on lately, is just kind of my upbringing and my background, and where a lot of my habit patterns came from and where they are now. I saw an old familiar face earlier this week, and bumping into him started to bring up certain things in me. And I saw myself kind of getting going back into like an old way that I used to be. I used to be a pretty violent person. I used to get in a lot of fistfights and altercations, and that hasn't been the case for a number of years. But in certain environments, in certain scenarios, I can feel that part of me coming back online, and it comes back online as like a protective mechanism, is what I've determined. And so after seeing this individual, I was reflecting on just kind of like how this protective mechanism came to be. And it brought me back to, my childhood days. And I guess I'll just go ahead and tell the story of me up until this point when it comes to some of these things. So when I was younger, we moved around quite a bit. And then this moving around really had an impact on my ability to develop relationships with people and have long-term friendships with people. I think I picked up the thought pattern or the belief that there's no benefit really in making friends or having friends, because they'll eventually end up going away. So I'd make friends, but I was always over time, I became very good at easily being able to let people go. And I think even just in thinking about it now, I think I've also become really good at not letting people in at all, so that should, things end, or the friendship end, or I move away, so to speak, there wouldn't be as much of an impact on me. So I grew up pretty shielded in that regard. And I remember in middle school, middle school is kind of the time where like the fighting started. And I was reflecting on exactly what it was that took place, because I wasn't picked on, like I wasn't bullied, but there were a few instances where I was outnumbered, or I was just in an impossible situation. I had one situation where there's like some tomboy chick like punching me, and it was like, what do you do? Like, there's a crowd of people. What am I going to do? Beat her up? And Another situation that would happen repeatedly was there's these older kids from the high school that would beat me up essentially. And again, because it was like there was three or four of them and me, and it was difficult to defend myself. And I met somebody through skateboarding. He used to skateboard that ended up being like a mentor to me. He was a few years older, listened to like punk rock and whatnot. And he would stand up for me and he would help me stand up for me. He took me to one of these individuals' houses one time and knocked on the door and helped me confront him. And just about that time in my life, we moved to Kansas. So I was starting to learn how to take care of myself and defend myself. And then we moved to Kansas, this environment that I knew was going to be kind of hostile. Like I showed up with a mohawk and, like punk rock, studded leather jacket, all this. And the shit talking ensued. And I think this was a turning point where like I wasn't really interested in allowing people to do that to me anymore. Um, and so I became very aggressive and I became like I'd be aggressive first. I'd be on the offensive. So lots of fist fights, lots of shit talking, lots of escalation, not de-escalation. And that became kind of my mode of being from the time I was in high school to my early 20s. Um, And another thing that was taking place during that time as I was growing up, I was listening to punk rock. So I'm being raised by, and when I say punk rock, I mean like street punk and oi. I mean bar fight music and street fight music. It's like it's not, oh my fucking heart's broken music. It's like, yo, let's rally the boys and go get in a fucking fight. Or, these anyway, so I grew up listening to that. That's the message that was kind of in my mind and in my head. So when I returned to Seattle when I was older, that's where I was coming in. And so I came back up to Seattle right after high school and ended up getting involved with, kind of the punk rock scene up here and was getting down and getting busy, building a reputation, going out, getting in fist fights, looking for trouble, finding trouble, and having a lot of fun doing it. That was another part for me as far as this whole habit pattern of, violence and fighting goes. For me, it was exciting. It was fun. It was thrilling. I didn't play sports. I didn't, feel I didn't fit in with that crowd. I skateboarded and then, I listened to punk rock music and fist fights and barroom brawls, again, were all I listened to for hours and hours and hours on end. And then so that was what I went out into the world and created. And it was fun. It was exciting. It's still fun and exciting. I don't do it, but the notion of it's fun and exciting. So from that, as I got a little bit older, so now we're talking early 20s, actually like 18, 19, I started training martial arts. And that started to give me this other avenue, this other way of engaging with fights, engaging with violence, engaging with that kind of that kind of energy. And over time, my desire to get in fights outside of the gym started to fall away. Another big transition that took place is when I was in Seattle. I started taking some college classes and learned a little bit about human behavior through some psychology classes and recognized that the approaches that I was taking to change people's minds about me or about politics, policies, whatever it may be, wasn't a very effective strategy. Violence wasn't an effective strategy. But I was also like that because I was afraid of, as I had said before, falling back into this place of getting not picked on, but disrespected, having lines crossed, feeling out of integrity with myself, having people behave or treat me in ways that weren't appropriate for me. And I found it very difficult to speak up for myself. And it wasn't, I was afraid of saying the wrong things. I was afraid of being judged. I was afraid of being rejected. Whether that be like on a grand scale or that be in a moment by not being able to articulate what I wanted to articulate and feeling foolish and feeling stupid. So I found that it was easier to just resort to violence right away. Like, because we could talk or we can, just do the thing. And so there's like this middle ground in between like a peaceful, calm situation and like we're fighting. And there's this middle ground in here that was uncomfortable for me. And it's still something I work on when it comes to like speaking up, drawing boundaries and whatnot. That middle ground is uncomfortable for me because I don't want to go to the extreme of violence, but what's taking place isn't that. So there's just this middle that needs to be explored. So I'll pause there for a second. Well, I started getting into martial arts, and as I got into martial arts, I stopped drinking as well. And I actually stopped drinking for about 10 years. For 10 years. And then I later introduced it back into my life. So there's a lot in that I just want to unpack a little bit. First of all, let's talk about these habit patterns that we develop when we're younger. Some unconscious habit patterns that I picked up in order to protect myself and feel safe. One was developing these walls from people because we moved so much. There was so much damage emotionally that was happening to me as we moved that there was a part of me that unconsciously developed this wall or these different modes and ways of relating with people that wouldn't let people in order for me to create some safety for myself. So that was the first one. The second one was the violence. The violence was a way for me to protect myself from rejection and protect myself physically from other individuals because I had experiences where, I was in danger. And then the other one was the thrill and the excitement. I wasn't having that in other ways, so I had to start creating it. And punk rock shows, and we were hanging out at bars when I was 16, drinking in the back of bars, getting in fights with grown men. Like that's what we were doing. So that excitement as well was a big part of my world growing up. So there's this unconscious kind of me that starts to take place. And as I get older and start living that pattern out, and as I break away from home and start to understand myself more, as I start to become a little more self-aware from whether it's college courses or just growing up, I start to recognize that some of these things aren't things that I want to be doing. And to be honest, I was never really a fan of hurting people. I didn't like that part of fighting, but I liked the excitement of it. But like the part where like you're hurting someone, I didn't like. And so as I start to become more aware of this, I'm finding healthier outlets for this energy. I'm not thinking of it in these terms, but the martial arts is definitely helping. And I'm finding other ways to spend my time and energy, going to the gym. I start finding personal development, college, things like this, start putting my time and energy into. And then I shut it all down, right? Like I stopped drinking for a decade. The fighting and everything stops. And I'm just focused on business, personal growth, personal development kind of stuff for several years. And then when I recognized it's been about 10 years, coming up on 10 years, I started thinking about like the whole booze thing again. So part of like the personal development world that I'm involved in is it's like this that I was involved in. It's like go like, everything, cut out all the bad stuff, do only the good stuff. Kind of like the traditional thing that you'd think of when you think of someone growing up. But I met some individuals, and there was like this other path, this third path that wasn't engaging fully and that wasn't cutting everything out, but was actually how do we consciously engage with things like the drink, like the smoke, like the fight in a way that's healthy. So much like going to the gym and having this healthy outlet for, this fiery energy. How do we find a healthy outlet for things like checking out, a healthy outlet for engaging in substances that have a reputation for not being all that great. So I start engaging, with this concept, with this idea. I start thinking about it, and I start noticing 10 years is about to come up when it comes to drinking. So eventually, I end up cracking a beer. I didn't crack one actually. The first one was a delicious Guinness on tap, which was probably the way to do it. And I started engaging with alcohol and smoking in a way that was like I'm present with it, I'm breathing with it, I'm conscious of the impact it's having on my body and the impact it's having on my psyche. And it's just been a very interesting experience. I've learned a lot from it. And a big part of why I started engaging with it was I was learning that there's sometimes it's the move to have a drink. Sometimes it's the move to have a smoke. Sometimes it's a move to kick back. And I was preventing myself from doing this because of this hit or miss, this all or nothing um, ideology that I had picked up. So I started engaging with it a little bit more. And from that, I was able to start creating different experiences for myself. Like one of my favorite activities to do is to have a cigar and do my journaling or do like a week review. Have some music playing, have a cigar, and just do my week review. Another one is, playing guitar in that way, having a drink, playing guitar, but also going out. Now I can go out and engage with people a little bit more than what I did when I wasn't drinking. I was pretty isolated because a lot of the people, the friends and whatnot that I had, like they all partied. And then as I moved away from them, like meeting people out in the world, you can do it. But it did create a little bit of a barrier for me. And Friday, Saturdays, it's easy to go out and meet people. Anyway, I guess the point of the video is this. Like all of these things that we engage in, whether they be conscious or unconscious, can have a place in our life that is healthy. Maybe it doesn't look exactly the same. Maybe there's some ways that it needs to shift. But the things that we're called to or drawn to or pulled to, there's a reason that they're there. And maybe we don't know what those reasons are from the outset. Maybe we don't even question the situation for a number of years or ever. But things like the fist fights for me and the things like the drink for me was these were important. These were important in different ways at different times in my life. And I'm not saying that everyone should go out and start drinking, especially if you're like, that's your vice and that really throws you off track. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is there's a different way that we can begin to engage in some of these activities that maybe have been harmful or detrimental to us. And maybe the reason that they've been brought into our life or that we're interested in them in the first place is because they have something that we want or need or desire. For me, fighting was a way for me to have that fun and excitement. And as I found other ways to bring that into my world, I don't have that desire anymore. For me, drinking at a certain point was just gonna get me in trouble, and I need to take a break. But then later in life, it came back around to where it was a great way to cut loose, have some fun with some friends, and enhance a night or enhance even a moment. Right, playing music, smoking, just the same. I've always enjoyed doing it, and it's taken me a while to find a way of doing it that doesn't, you know, destroy me like a pack a day does. But something like a cigar while you're writing once or twice a week, um, that's like a different kind of relationship with the vice than going buck wild on a pack a day or drinking a 30 rack or starting a bar fight. Are you seeing, like, as I explain this, that there's like unhealthy kind of not ideal ways to engage? We can also cut it off completely, or there's like a middle ground where we can engage in these things in a way that benefits benefits us. So smoking, drinking, acting cool. And then the final thing I'll say is about acting cool. That is the element of the fighter. Like for me, that persona, that version of me that came online to protect myself, that accessed something in me that I needed, and I still need. I still need the capacity to draw a hard line. I still need that. And much like cutting out the booze, much like cutting out the smoke, much like cutting out the party, I also, for a number of years, cut out that part of me that draws lines and became a little bit on the other end of the spectrum. I'd accommodate, maybe a little too much. And, no one was beating me up, but sometimes I wasn't speaking up as soon as I should have. And so all of these different aspects of ourselves have a place, and trying to find a healthy place for them, allowing a healthy place, because they're going to find a way out. But finding a healthy place for them can really make the difference in the way that we show up in the world. And as far as, being teachers and practitioners and people that are showing other people how to do this, when we deny those parts of ourselves and we make them wrong, or they're bad, we shame them, we're unconsciously communicating that to the people that we're working with. Further, there is information, insights, power, strength within those different types of parts of ourselves and those different engagements that we're called to. There's lessons and insights in those that are worth pulling out. So, I'm not sure I have practices this week. What would a practice be? I guess a simple practice would be reflecting on why you do these things. If there's some if there's some habits in your life that you think are unhealthy, unfitting, that aren't serving you, why are you engaging in them? Why are you engaging them in them? And from a non-judgmental place. I'm not saying why are you doing it, you should stop. What I'm saying is like engage. Like, what's going on? Is it for fun? Is it for excitement? Is it for connection? Just see what's there, and maybe in that inquiry you can find what the need is and have that need met in a different way. Further, if there's certain things that you cut out in your life and you're drawing a hard line no on, that's interesting, right? Like that we completely block something out, like 100%. Like to me, it's like a tense muscle. It's like a spasm. Like get out. Like what would it be like to kind of relax that spasm and see is there a healthy way to engage with this, or a healthy way to engage with what's underneath it, what that provided for you. So again, a little different this week. This topic is just something I've wanted to talk about for a while. And last week when I was like, what's the next topic? It's going to be this. So anyway, hope this video is useful. For me, I guess it's just a ramble and a little bit of sharing of myself. I do plan on doing these weekly. I'll have something going on next week. I've got things brewing. I did record an embodiment series, but I didn't like the video quality. So I'm going to probably hold off on releasing that. I'll probably record it again once I get a little bit better equipment. Other than that, I think I'll have some things going on for the new year, just piecing things together here. But anyway, appreciate y'all tuning in, and look forward to seeing you next week. Ciao.